Hello and welcome to part 2. In part 1, if you missed it, we spoke a lot about Stella and her life and business and how they all came together in her brand new website that we worked on together. If you haven't seen that, you can visit stellafilocco.com to see that. And I'll actually just show you that now so you can take a little bit of a look at what that looks like. So again, be sure to go ahead and check that out. In today's part 2, we're going to be doing the flip side of that conversation. So rather than me asking Stella a bunch of questions about what it's like as a web design client and coming to me as her website designer, we're going to look at the other side of it and explore what that might be. And so hopefully that's of interest to you. If you have any comments or questions, be sure to leave them in the section below and we'll be happy to answer them. So hi, Stella. It's good to see you again. I'm glad we're doing this part 2.
Good to see you too, Chloe. I felt like it was forever.
I know. We kind of meant to record this a little bit sooner than we hoped, but sometimes that little space and time can be helpful, especially in thinking about what you want to talk about and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so much has happened in the last couple of weeks. We've gotten so much stuff done, so got to take the good in with the bad.
That's true. And at least now you have a brand new website to play with as well. So another thing to focus on.
Yep. Already got, still trying to get a little bit familiar with how things work, but I think I got the hang of it pretty much.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think it's one of those things where you just have to dedicate the time to learning, because you can be shown all these things, but until you get really familiar with, clicking buttons and adding things and moving things around, it could take a little while. But once you get the hang of it, it does seem to come pretty natural, and it's easy to use.
Yeah, and the default draft that you set up for all the pages is super helpful because it makes it quick and easy to start a new post, a new blog, which I love because we need that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad it helped. It's one of those things I recommend for everyone to create sort of this blog post template with all the little pieces, because sometimes when you go to write a blog post or create a new post, you know that there's all these parts you have to include on it, all these links you have to incorporate, and that can be a little bit overwhelming at times.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like having a template that kind of tells you, okay, you need to include any resources here or any affiliate links. If you've got a video, add it here. I think just having that template that you can just duplicate and sort of fill in the blanks can be pretty helpful. I know it's something I use for myself as well.
It's a brilliant idea, and I think it works really well for someone like me who has no time, and wants to do their own small business, but is trying to do it in between being a stay-at-home mom. Normally you have to do all these little things to set up and start them, but by the time you finally get that set up, it's oh, baby's up, or I'm so exhausted, I don't have the energy to keep going, so it's very helpful.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah, totally. So my main question, what I've been itching to ask you and get it on videos for our viewers to get, is how you came up with the design for our website, considering the very, I'll say this, I have no problem admitting it, but I am a super PIA when it comes to wanting the things that I wanted. And I don't know how you did it. You have the patience of a saint, but you figured it out. And so I've been waiting for that moment to really ask you, how did you figure out what it was that I wanted, and how did you make it work? Because I feel like my site is pretty unique in how it's set up, because I have so many different things going on, and for it to make sense for me, I feel like that might have been a bit of a process for you, even though you make it look super simple. I have an idea that it probably was it.
Yeah, is a really good question. It's so funny. The process behind every website is always like in the beginning. I'm always having a mental breakdown for the first sort of week of going back and forth and trying to figure out what this is going to look like. But I think one of the most important steps that I try to take in the beginning is the very first conversation that I have with anyone, and you'll remember I had with you too, is really just to have a conversation with and find out more about who you are as a person. I think that that's really important. And I think that you can learn so much from a person when they're just chatting and not necessarily about business. But a big part of your website is it's representing you and your values and what message you're trying to share with people. And if you're just talking business all the time and asking those very important, but like I feel secondary set of questions with regard to how do you want your site to look? What do you want the feel to be like? A lot of people don't know the answer to that. They're just like you said, I have all of these ideas. I have all of this going on. I don't know how to make it make sense. And I think the at the core of every website, and especially your website where you're really you've really built a lifestyle brand with all of these various different components. You're at the center of that. And so having a conversation with you and learning about what's important to you, what your values are, and what's really interesting is you always kind of build up this picture of this aesthetic or design that you get from what people say and how they share it. So that was sort of the first step, and I wish that was more sometimes I think when I explain that it's hard to say, like read between the lines
Yeah.
and just pick up on the vibe and things like that. But it really is that, just that connection and being able to feel somebody's heart and being able to sense that. And I don't think that's something that you can just put in a checklist or say, okay, here's what you do to find this out. It really is just having a conversation and listening, like really listening to what a person is saying. But after that, it really comes down to, okay, let's just brain dump everything down on the piece of paper. What's everything you want to include? And this stage is really, really messy. And this is the part where I have my little mental breakdown and I always say it. I'm like, I can't do this. This is too difficult. I don't know what to do. I'll go back and forth and play around with it. But eventually, you kind of just find this way of saying, okay, well, what's the journey look like? When someone comes to the site, what might they be coming and looking for, and what kind of experience are we trying to provide them, and what would they do? Are they going to land on the homepage? Okay, where do they go next? If they're interested in music, what does that look like? What information do they need? So every single page on any website, I'm always just trying to ask myself, what is the one message that needs to be shared, and what's the one action we want people to take? Now, how do we help get them from place A to place B? What information do they need in the in between? And that's when you start filling out the content. As far as the design and the aesthetic goes, like I said, the first part of that, of just having the conversation, you really pick a lot about a person and who they are. So you get a feel for the design that you would, it's almost like picturing a person and what they'd wear and what they'd look like. That's what we talk about when we talk about your ideal client. But you have the chance to sit in front of someone and see that and have a conversation with them. So that's the first part. And then the second part is we put together a Pinterest board of inspiration. And I always just say, throw everything in there that speaks to you, that you are attracted to. Don't worry about having a cohesive design. My part is to find the trend in everything that you put in that board. And so with you, it was a case of like looking through that board, taking all the things that we'd spoken about, and then kind of trying to find the thread through the needle and just see the pattern. And that's how I came up with, this sort of design with the black and the gold and the roses as well, like trying to incorporate everything that you spoke about. Try to keep it clean and as easy to follow as possible, while still incorporating all of those different elements, because there was a lot. And
Yeah.
I think that was definitely a challenge. Having that secondary header made a big difference, to be able to say, okay, like let's have the main pages and then let's showcase the blog post, but let's do it in a way where it's almost like there's categories and sections of the site you can explore based on what your interests are. So I don't know if that explains it very well, but that's kind of how
Yeah, I
I
mean,
put it all together.
it totally makes sense to me because we were part, you know, I was obviously part of the process, but I feel like going back to the first step is how you mentioned how you like kind of like you learn about the person and you really listen to them and you try to really like visualize what they're seeing. And I think you did that. You did a phenomenal job with that.
Thank you.
And I can say that because I've experienced building a website with someone else in the past, with several other people in the past. And I definitely noticed like, okay, I finally found the person that understands what I'm really trying to get at and what I visualize, put it on a website, you know, because I have all these images, I have these ideas, but I'm not a website designer. So therefore I don't know how to make it make sense. And you were able to do that. And I felt that from the minute like we started having our first conversation. It wasn't like I didn't feel my experience in the past was I felt like I was being basically like using a generic template or going through the process in a very generic way, very like cold, just very business, technical website building experience. Whereas this time around, it really felt like we were creating art in a realm that I normally would, you know, don't do myself. So it was really fun because I felt like I was actually putting my 2 cents in it, like really doing that. And you were just really just making it happen.
I'm so glad. I mean, like even just the part about creating art, because it is like a collaborative project. It's not, you can't just put a template on somebody's design when they're trying to share a really important message. And the thing is, like, that's not a diss to anybody who does follow like a boilerplate template, because there's certain elements of every website that is going to help you and you want to incorporate for sure. But that's just the baseline. That's the foundation. And all the things that are built on top of that comes from you and looking through the world through your eyes rather than through the lens of a website designer.
Right.
I think that's really important.
You basically, there's a website and then there's the website that has life.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is the difference between my previous websites and this one. And I'm actually really happy that it took this long to finally figure it out, you know, find you and figure it out, because I feel like it's the perfect time. And the second part of the process that you were explaining was the Pinterest folder. And that was like my favorite part, was putting together the Pinterest visuals. And I feel that like that is a great way to really gauge what your client is looking for, or even just like personality. And yeah, I feel like that was awesome. And I've even now used it for different parts of my business. So it's a great tool to use Pinterest to kind of gather like the person's style.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. I love the Pinterest part because I feel like that's where the fun happens. A lot of times when you think about your website, especially if you're not a designer or you're not entirely sure what you want, you kind of are starting from this place of overwhelm and uncertainty and feeling like,
how do I put this language into a visual, because you have things that you're saying but you don't know what they look like and you don't know how to explain what they look like. So when you have the Pinterest as an option, it's like, I'm being heard, you understand me.
Yeah, it's really true. And I think that's one of the things, like whenever you're a website designer and there's certain questions you want to ask, but like I said, sometimes people don't have the answers. You don't know how to explain what it is you want. You don't know what that looks like. And because you're starting from a place of like overwhelm, uncertainty, I'm not quite sure. I think that it's such a fun, it's like going into a playground and you just get to have fun and explore your interests as well and what it is you're trying to create. Because just looking at visuals, we're all really drawn to visuals. They help us to understand a lot better. We can process images much better than text. And so being able to just throw that all and say, hey, this is me, and throw everything in one place, like I want that part to be the most fun. And so I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad.
It was definitely the funnest part, especially because when you're using something like Pinterest, you're also like coming up with ideas that you didn't have before. You're finding other other ideas, other paths that you hadn't thought of. So, and then just being able to, like you said, dump it in there, and then for you to be able to see it is just like easy.
Yeah, it is. It does make it a lot easier. It's easier in terms of communicating what you can't really say, but you can show.
Like, I feel like you found certain things about me that I wouldn't have thought to tell you about me, as far as style or moods and feeling. Because I feel like the type of website that you built for me, the type of content that's on here is very personal, and it's very, involves a lot of emotion, a lot of passion. And so I feel like because of the different arts, pictures that I sent you, different themes that I sent you, I feel like you picked up on that in a way that I wouldn't have thought to express it to you.
Oh, well, I'm so glad. Like, it's always nice to hear, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, you're doing your job. But yeah, it's nice to hear that when you nail it, because like you definitely go through this sort of in between of like, am I on the right track? Is this right? And it you say that it's very personal, and that's one of the things that I'm always really conscious of, is that this is somebody's, like, this is their home on the internet, and this is where they get to express their full self. And so you kind of feel this like you just want to get it right. You want to get it right, and you want to take it as seriously and make it as personal as it is for that person, right? Rather than, I don't like the idea of it being like, hey, I'm just building a website for a client. It's so much more than that. And I never sort of kind of take that lightly. So hearing that it works and you've achieved that is everything.
No, I think you did like an amazing job in that aspect. Like I never felt like you were pushing the deadline, and to be honest with you, I couldn't believe that you told me it should be about. I remember when I asked you, like, how long do you think? And I'm in my head, I'm going 3 months, because of knowing who I am and how much stuff I want to do. I figured, oh my God, this is going to take her 3 months before she's ready. And you told me 2 weeks, and I was like, oh my God. And you did come through, and I didn't once feel rushed, or like you were not open to my suggestions, or like I was annoying you in any way, because I know, like, I asked you 1,000,001 questions, and I changed my mind about 100 times. But yeah, I'm so happy that we connected, and that you are very passionate about bringing out the best of that person's ideas onto a website. I think that it's like hard to find. And then of course you can always try to do it yourself, like I thought I could, but it would have taken me another year, maybe 2, to do what you did in a matter of weeks. So it was such a great investment.
I'm
so
glad
much that I wanted to go ahead and make a video with us talking about it, because I feel like more people need to know that there are website designers like you who are really dedicated to making it functional, and then making it very unique and personal and just custom to the person.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No worries. I did want to ask you this question that's also been kind of on my mind, especially at the very beginning when I was deciding, like, because normally in the past, the website, what do you call it? The website software that has been used or is WordPress. That's the one I
WordPress.
knew about.
Yeah.
And then I know like I think there's Wix, but like Wix is like, but I know WordPress is like where you go when you want to do that. But then Squarespace came out. I didn't know too much about it because it wasn't what I was familiar with from working with other people. But when we first connected, you mentioned Squarespace, and to me, then the question came up is like, what's the difference? And as far as like where we are today, what for someone who's in the website design world, how does that like work out with WordPress versus Squarespace?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It's such a good question. And all Squarespace website designers have been asked this and also feel the frustration of this question because it's kind of known on the internet that WordPress is the sort of benchmark, especially in terms of unless you're doing something of complete custom coding and you're a professional coder doing all of that kind of thing. I think it's something like over 25% of the world's websites are run on WordPress, and it's seen as the standard. And I was a very hardcore WordPress user right up in 2018. In fact, the only reason I became a Squarespace website designer was because GoDaddy managed to delete my WordPress website. And one day I was so angry and frustrated. I was like, this is so stupid. And then I saw something about Squarespace and I was like, Squarespace is not good. Like I just believed this idea that it was inferior. And then I was waiting for a response from GoDaddy. And while I did that, I managed to build an entire site in an hour on Squarespace, trying to prove that it was less than WordPress. And something happened in that moment where I realized it's really not. It's really, Squarespace is an all-inclusive platform and it includes everything. So unlike WordPress, where you can really get in there and customize with different code, different plugins, you could do some pretty high tech and advanced things on WordPress that you couldn't do with Squarespace very easily. And that's the difference. So overall, if you had to say which platform is better, WordPress wins. But there's a problem. Unless you are a coder or you have a professional website developer, you are not able to use the platform as well as you
So
maybe
true.
want to. So
Yeah.
it's like what happens is you end up paying for all of these different themes. You end up trying to do it all yourself. Everything looks a mess. It
Yep.
doesn't work very well. You try to write a blog post and it's the hardest thing to do. You know that WordPress might be good for search engine optimization, but you don't even know what search engine optimization is or how to optimize a blog post. And so then what happens is you sit there scratching your head, frustrated and overwhelmed, and never posting anything, just having this dead site where nothing happens. And so for me, once I realized and got over the ego of like, oh, I have to use WordPress because
Right.
WordPress is the best, it became like, no, it doesn't have to be. Just because it's the best in the world doesn't mean it's best for me. And if I feel this way, maybe there's a ton of other people who feel this way as well. And I can help them to build their sites without having to deal with all the stress and the overwhelm, and do it in a cost-effective way. Because while Squarespace is a little bit more pricey than WordPress, which is the software itself is free, you then have to think about, okay, well, how do I get a domain and connect the domain? How do I pay for hosting? That costs money. People think that it's your own platform with Squarespace, but like I said, my website got deleted by GoDaddy on WordPress. So it's not just safe because you still have to pay for a hosting provider. Then
Right.
you have, all the protection, all the plugins, all this other stuff going on. And I just feel like for a lot of people, they want a simple, easy option so that they can actually build a website that looks beautiful, does what it needs to do. You don't have to spend all the hours in the world updating it and worrying that it
Correct.
breaks. And you can use it. Most importantly, you use it, because if you're never posting content because the process of trying to hit publish on a post is so confusing, you're not getting all the benefits they're talking about.
Yeah, you're wasting time.
Yes, yeah, and causing yourself frustration. So it's like, why not make it easy as possible? Have a beautiful website that you can actually use, and then you can get the most out of your website, because you will be able to post content. You will be able to update your site. You don't have to leak all this money out paying professionals every time you want to change something. And so I feel like I while it's not for everybody, for my audience, which is people like yourself that just want an easy, simple way to do things, because you've got your own, you spend the day-to-day running of your business, your projects, being a mom, all that stuff that you've got going on. The last thing you need to do is add a full-time job as a website developer to that bag of tricks. So it's like, how do we find an easy solution? And the other thing as well is, and more and more website designers are getting involved in this, is, okay, how do we take something as simple as Squarespace, and how do we bring our own expertise and our own coding knowledge to create something and elevate it so that it's not just a standard Squarespace template you're getting. We want to keep the ease of Squarespace, but still create something very unique and very beautiful, and something that stands out and you can't even tell is built on Squarespace once it's launched. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. But it's not, like I said, it's for a specific audience who are looking for an easy way to build and manage their website.
Yeah, I feel that for me with WordPress, I went through everything you just explained. It was like, it was so annoying when every couple of weeks you get a notification that you have some kind of upgrade or some software update that you need to do, and you're like, and it sends it to you in this language that you're like, what the heck does this say? Why do I need to know this? And I have yet to get one of those type of emails from Squarespace or any of the stuff that you set up for me, and I can't tell you how much of a relief that is, because that was one of the things that when we launched the site, I was like, okay, here we go. I'm gonna have it's gonna be like spam in my email that the website sent on about the website, and I haven't gotten one. And also with the technicalities inside of WordPress while you're trying to build content, it's scary. It's almost like you don't want to touch anything because you're afraid you're going to screw something up, or you're going to set yourself back somehow, or you're going to need help from somebody else to correct it if you mess it up. And the way that I've noticed Squarespace while I've been kind of checking it out and figuring out stuff, is like, I'm 2 seconds away from asking you a question, and a second later I find the answer. Like, I figured it out. It's that much easier, I find personally, using Squarespace versus WordPress. Like, I literally just gave up on my old site because I couldn't figure out. It just seems so complicated and so dry and just not user friendly. Really, I guess is the correct term to use. Not at least not for somebody who's not familiar with coding, like you said. My coding stops in the days of MySpace, and that's it.
I hear that.
I used to be awesome in coding. That was MySpace days. After that, can't help you. So and then I guess the only other question I really wanted to make sure that we addressed for anybody who's interested is your pricing for website design. I feel like that's something people might want to know about.
So that's one of the big questions when it comes to any sort of website design. And I don't like to give the answer of it depends or it varies. So I can explain why it varies, right? Depending on how many pages of your site that you have, depending on how complicated the design is, depending if we have to add extra coding, which a lot of the times when we're doing custom websites, like your own website with the 2-tier navigation, that was only made possible through extra coding, which takes a little bit of time. So these all things they all affect the price. As of like 2021, my pricing starts for a website, for a custom website, starts at $3,000 US. However, what I've learned from working with the audience that I work with is that they're looking for a simple, easy to use website design, but they also want to do it within an affordable budget. And so one of the things that I'm working on this year is creating a template store. And basically what that does is it puts together some pre-designed templates for specific audiences, and it includes all the elements you would require of your website, especially for that specific niche. And then we incorporate the education part. So just like I sent you all those videos of how to use your website, they're all incorporated in there. And what that does is that takes people through the whole process of building their own site, designing their own site, and being able to start with a pre-done template that they can use, but in a more affordable rate. So that's around $500, and it kind of includes everything. So that's where I'm at. I focus more on that in answering your question, because that's my focus for this year, as opposed to doing a ton of custom website designs. While I can still do that, I'm really trying to focus on the template store, because I think that that's the solution that this audience needs.
I think that's really neat, because you're not like saying, oh, I'm the only one that can build your site. You're saying, look, I can build your site. It's going to cost you my time and my effort. Or here, I'm hooking you up with, basically how I start or how I set stuff up. And then, you can go from there. And and it's almost like you're developing someone into being a website designer in a way.
Yeah.
I really like that idea. Of course, I couldn't do it because right now,
yeah,
my life does not involve that. It could not involve another title. But I could see where that would be very beneficial for someone who's just trying to start off with their own thing and just kind of needs, a little help, but can, dedicate it some time and make it their own.
Yeah. Well, the goal is, the whole goal with it is just to empower people. I think that's the whole thing, is you still are getting a pre-done website design. So you can come in and within 24 to 48 hours, you will have a design in your Squarespace account. It's more, okay, well, how can I teach you how to design the part yourself so that you can bring yourself to it, just like what we did together. And sometimes people do need that extra support, which is why the custom design is still there. But I think a lot of time people just need to understand, okay, how do we put these elements together and how can I change it? So if you've done the design for me and I just have to add my content, how do I change the colors? How do I change? These are all things that you would have to teach somebody, anyone who you built a site for anyway, because they would have to learn how to use it. So it's kind of like, okay, well, let's build your site together through these videos and through this template that you will have in your account. But let me show you all of the steps along the way so that when you hit launch on that website, you're already a wizard in using Squarespace. You know how to change things, update things, all that good stuff. So I'm hoping it kind of fills that sort of gap and empowers more people to build their own site and use their site. I want people to use their site as much as possible, because that's where the real value is, right? Like it's one thing to design it and have this beautiful website, but if it's just sitting there, it's not achieving everything that it could achieve if you were putting out content consistently and able to create from a place of confidence rather than uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a brilliant idea.
Thank you.
And it's definitely a helpful thing to have the same person showing you how to do things in videos, rather than like just hitting the YouTube search bar for like random how to do this on Squarespace and how to do, and then like having different people showing you how to do things. You have the same person teaching you the same way, like every professor has their own way of teaching. And so like getting schooled by one person on the one subject is much easier than getting taught the same subject by like, you know, infinite amount of people.
Yeah.
So I like that idea. That I feel like that's very just it's a great idea. I like it, and
Thank you
it's
so
your
much.
own. It's your own.
Yeah. Well, we've got to execute it now. Now I've said it out in the world, I've got to go. I've got to go and execute it. So hopefully, I could do the idea justice. But I still love doing all the custom work as well. Like working with you was so incredible, Stella. You are so
Thanks,
fun,
Chloe.
and
Thank
you're
you.
such an inspiration to people. I just like I want to just reiterate, especially if you haven't watched part 1 of this interview, which you should definitely go and watch because Stella is incredible. But I just want to reiterate the fact that you're doing 101 different things all of the time, and that's not easy. And in the middle of a pandemic, nonetheless. And I think that more people need to see the fact that even just you have all these different projects going on, because 1, it makes you incredible, but 2, I think a lot of people are feeling like they have to be one thing and they can only focus on this one part of themselves, and sometimes that's not the best way to live life, because you could feel a little bit like you're losing out on the other parts. We're more than the sum of one part. And so I think that you're really doing an amazing job of like advocating for people who are multi-passionate and are interested in a wide range of things, and are able to bring them all together in a really powerful way.
Yeah, I think that the biggest lesson I've learned in life thus far at 30 something, I'm not going to be specific, but is that, you know, going about our lives thinking that we need to find the one thing we're like super good at versus everything else that we enjoy and, you know, we're into going about it in that way, you're always going to have that question of what if. And I got to a point where I just got tired of asking myself that question, what if? And I kind of was always rebel in that aspect because I still delved and I still did what I wanted to do. But yeah, I was always, well, but this is the way that, you know, we've been told, is that you got to find the one thing and stick to it and do your best. And I just kind of said to hell with that. And here we are. And thank you for the compliments, because just the other day I saw one of those memes on Instagram. I have a lot of affirmations. I follow a lot of affirmation sites, but pages on Instagram, and one of them was about moms, and it says a mom doesn't need to know that they're tired or that they look tired. They already know they do. You need to tell them that they're doing a good job. That's what they want to hear. That's what they need to hear. And so you just did that for me, and thank you, because that means a lot.
Well, I think you're doing an incredible job, and I'm really, really excited for everything that you're going to be sharing over the next 12 months and being able to see where your website goes from here. I think everyone should follow you over on Instagram as well. So go to @Stells on Instagram. I love that you share so much of your life so openly. It's so beautiful. And you know what's so funny? You say you follow in affirmations. I feel like anyone going to your Instagram account, that's like the most beautiful, inspiring collection of like just wholesome photos and videos that just makes you feel good as well. So
that's the intention. The goal is to make people feel inspired, and just, you know, if they need a little happiness or a smile or whatnot, that you know, me being personal about my life and sharing the good and the bad, that, you know, something good will come out of it, and they'll, you know, retain that message, and it'll make them feel good.
Yeah,
but, yeah.
It's important, and you do it so well.
Thanks, Chloe. And don't worry, I think what you're doing is amazing too, because I think you're finding your own kind of like path in the website design realm. In that you're actually trying to teach people how to do their website design, as opposed to saying like, look, I'm the specialist here, you can't do what I do. I think that's great. And you know, I have your back, and I will be sharing this with everyone on my end. So
yeah. Thank you so, so much. That's the thing. It's all collaboration, right? That's the most important.
It's my favorite part.
If you're going to share any message and anything that we've spoken about, is that great things happen when people come together. And so if you're watching this as well and you have any questions or you would like to reach out, all of our links are in the description and the comments. We definitely want to hear from you and where you're at in your journey, and if we can help in any way as well. So thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to head over to stellafilocco.com, where you can check out Stella's brand new website and all the exciting things she's got going on.